Hey, my name's David. I've got a motorcycle, truck, car, mini bike, vintage watch problem, and I really, I think it's a lifelong skill, something that I've learned a lot about, and I wanted to share that information with you so you can also have that problem. It's a beautiful day here in the mountains at 7,250 feet in New Mexico, surrounded by trees. Um, so yeah, I wanted to give you a little bit of my history on buying cars. Growing up, I was rich in family, but we did not have a lot of money. So having a large family kind of ensures that you're going to spend some time, um, not being able to get everything you want, which was a great lesson and a good development for me as, you know, for my personality, I'm sure. But we fixed everything ourselves, so we never took our car to a shop, and I think that gave me a lot of experience. I early on developed a passion for cars and bikes, and I guess that was just the first time I ever got on a motorcycle. I remember just going from 0 to 60 in what seemed like no time at all. I was on the back. I was probably about 8 years old. No helmet, I'm sure. Um, but yeah, so what I began to see was that if I wanted to get something, the easiest way to get it would be to buy it and put some sweat equity into it and turn it from junk into something good. So my education was pretty hands-on, and I think the only formal education that I really had, my mom used to love going to garage sales, and I think I've inherited that from her. But she one time came home with a full encyclopedia set that was just a few years old, and it included all the little gizmos and features that they have. And there was this thing in there called the Cyclo Teacher, and it was like this big plastic thing. I'll see if I can get a picture and post it on here. And you could put in different round circles, and it would take you through quizzes and questions. And apparently, the information was in the encyclopedia, so you could learn a lot about different topics. And one of them was automotive. And so, anyway, I guess I'm getting off into a story here, but I did that whole entire automotive thing and learned a lot of theory. And I think that theory has just really helped me reinforce kind of what I'm doing. So, enough about me. Yeah, let's talk about buying junk cars and motorcycles and everything else. And I think, you create your own opportunity when you're doing that. Um, I think so. One of the things you can do is, as you see cars in your life, you can or motorcycles or whatever, you can keep track of them. And so that was what happened with this bike. I It belonged to an uncle of my ex-wife, and we were at his house, and it was in the garage and it looked like brand new. And I remember just falling in love with it and doing some research. And it's a little Motomorini 350cc twin that's very much like a Ducati, kickstart only. Uh, has a cam belt on it. But yeah, just a sporty bike. It has a shock on this side. Anyway, I guess this is gonna be a really long video if I'm gonna tell you all the stories. But basically, I wanted that bike, but it was clearly his prized possession. He was an engineer, a mathematics teacher, and uh, and so I kind of just followed it. I waited and followed it, and then I had heard he died, and one of the his kids had ended up with it, and I just knew he wouldn't want to part with it, having something from his dad and everything else. And I think one night I was sitting around drinking beer and thinking about that bike, and I thought, I'm going to call him and see. And he said, "Yeah, I'll sell it. It's in the backyard. The kids were playing with it and riding it around. And they bent one of the handlebars or something, and and the engine's locked up." And I was like, "What do you want for it?" And he told me, and I said, "I'll take it." Sight unseen, I knew I wanted to have it, and so I bought it. So, following a bike around is the point here, that you can follow it. And when I got it, I was not disappointed. It actually was in decent shape, and I was able to free the engine up and make some repairs to it. And it's not something that is going to be going anywhere anytime soon. I spent a lot of time and effort to get this, and I followed it over about 20 years. So that's one example of just kind of following vehicles when you hear about them. And it's very easy to give your phone number to somebody at a car show, or just to always, every time you see somebody, say, "Hey, if you get ready to get rid of that thing, let me know, and I'll buy it from you." And then I've had people who maybe this is a different topic, but who know that you're into vehicles, and then they will they see you always around them and always working on them, and eventually they'll just say, hey, I've got this vehicle. I don't really want anything for it. If you want to just come get it, or yeah, I'll take nothing for it. Basically, very little money, and that's fine. I mean, you don't want to take advantage of people, but a lot of times getting rid of something is as much a hassle. I mean, it's quite a bit of hassle sometimes, I think. The other thing is just having visibility to things. I guess in your regular life, you got to just make sure that you're keeping your eyes open all the time. I mean, you just never know where you're going to see something peeking around a corner, or a fender or a hood or something very distinctive that tells you that there's something back there that you want. And I know that that's what happened with this bike. Actually, a different thing happened with this bike, but with this bike, what happened was that I was at a garage sale, and I always ask, and this is a lesson, is to say, hey, do you have any cars or vehicles, motorcycles that you're selling? And often people will be like, no, and then they'll be like, wait a minute, what about that thing behind the shed? And so that was what happened with this. What's that thing behind the shed? And so I went and looked, and I saw that it was a YZ50, and it did not look like this. It looked like extremely faded, and it had been rode hard and put away wet by a couple of generations of kids, and so I said, well, what do you want? And she said my husband would know. So I left my number, and he called me a while later, and I said, well, what do you want for it? And he said $20, and I was, okay, I'll be right there. So I went and I bought it, and it was a complete basket case. But I did, and it hasn't run yet, but I'm gonna have it running. I've got a new piston for it, but I've had it completely apart and done a lot of other work on it. So making sure that you're asking all the time, that you're keeping your eyes open as you go into new neighborhoods and new areas, and you're all, and I mean, I'm sure that even just approaching people is a little bit of an art in itself, I think, so that you're not threatening them, or you come charging into their yard because you found what you want. So yeah, you got to always be asking. The other thing I would say, and a lesson that I've learned in the past, is that you have to be prepared to buy when you start asking about something, because the worst thing you want to do is to get them thinking about selling it and you not be there to buy it, because then they're going to tell their brother that they're doing it, or their cousin, or the neighbor down the street, and the neighbor will be like, oh, I didn't know you were selling that, I'll take that. So think about that you don't want to open up the opportunity before you're ready to take advantage of the opportunity. Let's see. Yeah, so garage sales are actually a great thing. It's a nice, fun Friday or Saturday morning activity. You can, in a couple of hours, go and look at some things and maybe pick something up that you need or not. But I was at a garage sale, and this was, I don't know, a little over a year ago, and I was in the house, and there was just stuff I didn't like, and I was bored, and I asked them if they had any garage stuff. And they took me around to this garage, and this car was sitting in it, along with some other cars. And the guy was a really nice guy, and it was apparently a project he had started and was unable to finish, or wasn't going to finish. And so some other guy had gotten onto what I was doing and was out there as well. And the guy asked him about one of the other cars he had, and he said, make me an offer, you won't hurt my feelings. And so I said, really? And so and he had already told me he wanted 10 grand for this car. And so I said, well, would you take 5? And he said, sure. I was like, okay, I got to go home and get some cash. I'd broken my own rule. And I'll probably do a video on this car. I've put a lot of effort into it just recently. And then because I'm limited on space, I had to pull it out and put it out here in the harsh environment. And then one day when the sun was really hot, and the rear window just broke on me. So I've got to replace the rear window. But I guess that's the point, is, that when you do things like go to estate sales and garage sales, that you get exposed to a lot of new things, and you get exposed to a lot of new areas. And so when you're there, just keeping your eyes open and making sure that you're watching what's really going on and what you're really seeing. And then, I think Another thing that helps is really knowing what you're looking at. So doing your research and the things that you're really interested in. I think it's way too easy to just acquire everything. And when you're a new person, a new collector, that's going to be one of the things that happens quite a bit is that you tend to just buy everything, and soon you're overwhelmed and covered up with way too many vehicles that you don't have a lot of passion for. And so one of the things I've learned is not to buy things just to make money or just because you're going to flip them. Buy things that do something inside of you, that you feel it and you want to work on it, because I guarantee that if it becomes a job, it's going to be miserable. I would not want to turn my passion into a job that I have to do to get paid for it. I'd rather do it because I like to do it, and if there's any return, the return is, it's monetary, it's emotional, it's satisfying, and I think that's what you want. You want to do things that are satisfying. I'll go off a little bit here. The name of this channel is like, that was embarrassing. I forgot the name of my channel. Anima Machina is what I recently changed it to. And when I thought about why I why I work on things, I mean, I feel like that a lot of these things have a soul. That there's something. They are the representation of all the time, energy, and effort that people have put into the creation of them, the design, the way they wanted them to be. And so in a lot of ways they communicate that information to us through kind of a visceral way, I guess, something that you feel, or that is hard to explain. And so that's kind of the reason that I named the channel that. And I don't think that I mean, I feel like that doing things for money kind of cheapens the experience. And so for me, that's kind of my passion, or my reason for working on these things. When I look at something, I see the energy and time and effort that somebody put into that, and into the design and the building and the care and the construction. And I mean, it's just I think it represents the best in us as humans. And so maybe that's a little philosophical for the channel, but I do want you to understand where I'm coming from. The equipment. I want to talk a little bit about equipment. I mean, you're going to need ways to get things home. Your wives will get fed up with uh, learning how to stop a car when they're being towed, or learning to tow your husband when he's in something that's has no brakes. And I mean, it's an exciting time, but it's not something that you want to do as a normal course of survival. So yeah, you want to have you need a minimum of some kind of equipment. So for instance, I have a tow dolly out on the property here. I'm sure the tires on it are fairly rotten, and I wouldn't take it on any long trips, but it's something that's really saved me many times. So when we've had breakdowns on our own cars, we don't use mechanics. We tend to do everything ourselves between YouTube and you know, maybe a little hopes and prayers or whatever. We can get it going again. And you get experience as you work on things, and you learn what things are going to need. So um, so yeah, equipment. And you have to just start with some basic stuff. I mean, it's nice to have a few tools, and you can pick them up for very little money. Used tools don't wear out generally, even the cheap Chinese stuff. And I guess that's a whole other category, is you can buy pretty much anything you want, at Harbor Freight, and it's going to last you for a while. You just take care of it, keep it organized, keep it clean, and you'll be able to use that. Um, yeah, so you can have a lot of. Uh, I mean, you need some way to get vehicles back and forth to where you're trying to get them to be. You can also pay a tow truck or something like that to do that. But from an equipment standpoint, I've been acquiring tools, for maybe 20, 25 years. I had kind of lost everything for a while, and then started picking things back up again. And now I think I've got pretty much what I want and what I need. And I don't know that I've got $1 million invested in or anything like that. And buy what you need. Don't just go and buy stuff just because you think you might need it. Wait until the need arises. Take your time, find it, for a good price, and then just go on from there. Um, I think that's kind of I have a little outline here. I'm new at this, and so not the best filming, and I figured, actually I flipped this around on me because I figured that maybe it would be better to kind of talk to you, you know, one on one or whatever. And so I appreciate you guys listening. I think there's other topics that we could talk about, like kind of interaction with sellers when you're buying something, and you know, kind of how to get the best results that way. And general integrity and honesty, I think, is important in any transactions that you make. And I think that you want people to feel good about what's going on and not to feel like they're getting robbed or that you're pressuring them or anything like that. So so I think there's, you know, there's a lot of other topics that we could talk about, but this is just one that I wanted to talk to you about since I was thinking about it. And I am trying to buy less stuff. I mean, I've become more discerning about what I buy, and where I get it, and I mean what I buy, because it's too easy. There's not enough room in the world, and we don't have enough time to get after everything, and so we have to start to become choosy about what we buy, and when we buy, making sure that we're making the most informed decision, and have a kind of a long-term vision or plan for what we're going to be doing with that as time goes on, and how it's going to become part of our lives. So I appreciate the time. I feel like I've talked long enough, and maybe I can tell some of the stories, more stories about how I got some of these different things. So I'll be doing more videos. I want to finish that Suzuki in the background there. I want to get it on the road, and then I want to finish this. I want to finish this CB550, and then this bike. I'm holding this upside down here. Needs a top end, and then I want to talk a little bit about the Falcon that I've got outside, which needs to get more continued love. And I guess that's it. Thank you for watching. Like, share, subscribe. I'd like to try to grow the channel. I think it's making me more organized and helping me be more deliberate about the progress that I'm making on the different vehicles that I have. And you know, I think that's a risk, is to have stuff sitting around that you're not doing anything with, because it actually becomes a drain on your soul, where your possessions and your objects are bringing you down because they make you feel bad. There's my board, current stuff I'm working on. And thank you again.